They called my name in front of everyone like I was a prop, like I existed for that moment alone. The room went quiet in that way you only notice after when your ears start ringing and you realize 200 people just stopped breathing at the same time. Holiday lights blurred above me red and gold, too warm for what was about to happen. And my husband, standing there with a microphone, smiled like he'd already won. That smile told me everything. Before he even spoke, I knew this wasn't just about us. This was about power. "Come up here," he said, casual, confident, like he was calling for another drink. People laughed softly, unsure. I stood anyway, not because I wanted to, but because I wasn't going to shrink. My heels hit the floor slow, deliberate. Every step felt like walking deeper into someone else's story, one he'd already written without me. He waited until I was beside him, then leaned into the mic. "We're ending the marriage tonight," he said. No pause, no warning. Just dropped it into the room and watched it land. He joked about how I was lucky to marry him, about how my career was cute, about how I'd done just fine riding the company's diversity wave. I remember thinking, wow, he really believes this version of me. Then he pulled out papers. Divorce papers. Right there. Told everyone it would be clean. No assets, no support. Said I hadn't earned anything from the marriage anyway. "Sign it," he said, holding out a pen like he was offering me a favor. Phones were already up. I could see reflections of screens in the mirrors behind the bar. Stories going live, people whispering. I looked at the paper, then at his face, and something inside me went very still. I signed. 3 loops, 1 straight line. I set the pen down, turned, and walked away while he told the room, "See no drama. Adults." That was the night everyone thought they saw the end of me. They were wrong. The truth is that moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was the final crack in something that had been breaking quietly for years. We'd been married 6 years, but we stopped being partners long before that night. We started showing up to events separately, telling ourselves it was just busy schedules. He was a rising star in sales, loud, charming numbers through the roof. I worked in strategy behind the scenes, building campaigns, fixing problems nobody wanted to touch. Different worlds, same company. At least on paper. When we met, he told me he loved how independent I was. Said I didn't need anyone. I believed him. I kept my last name at work, not out of rebellion, just habit. I never talked about my family. Never used connections. I wanted everything I had to be mine. Somewhere along the way, that independence turned into something he resented. He'd joke about how I got lucky, about how companies needed faces like mine. I laughed it off. You learn to do that. You tell yourself it's easier than correcting someone who doesn't want to hear you. That night at the party, when I reached the empty hallway and the doors closed behind me, my phone exploded. Messages, missed calls, shock sympathy. I didn't answer any of them. I opened social media instead. There it was already, different angles. His voice clear, my face frozen while I signed. Captions full of emojis. I closed the app and finally called my father. He answered immediately. Calm. "I saw it," he said before I could explain. I asked him what justice looked like. He didn't rush. He said the truth documented with consequences. I told him to do whatever he needed to do. By morning, the video was everywhere. Millions of views. Half the comments cheering him on. Half calling it cruel. He went on a podcast, told his version, said he carried me for years, said he wanted witnesses so there'd be no lies later. People called him brave. Transparent. A man standing his ground. That part hurt more than the night itself. Then work stepped in. Or rather, they stepped around him. HR emailed me, asked me to stay quiet for the sake of morale. Just me. Nothing to him. He kept posting wins deals, smiling headshots. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about one man. This was about a system that protects people who make money, no matter how they do it. I resigned. Not because I had to, but because I refused to stay in a place that asked me to swallow humiliation politely. When I told my father, he said, "Good. Now we move." He owned a controlling share in the company. He initiated a full audit. Expenses, HR records, emails, years of them. External investigators, quiet, legal. My husband laughed it off at first, told friends he was untouchable, posted vacation photos, said I was being petty. Audits don't care about confidence. By the end of the first week, patterns appeared. Expenses labeled as client dinners at places that weren't restaurants, conferences that never existed. Then the HR files. Complaints. 11 of them. All women. Most women of color. All marked as handled. No discipline, just coaching conversations. And after each complaint, he was promoted, rewarded, protected. The investigators reached out to former employees. One by one, the same story came back. Comments, touching, jokes about quotas, complaints followed by stalled careers. One woman told them, "Once you complain about him, you're done." She left, took a pay cut, lost her confidence. I met her for coffee later. She couldn't look me in the eye at first. She thought she was alone. She wasn't. More women came forward. Quiet messages at first, then statements, sworn, detailed, painful. The narrative cracked wider when an internal culture survey leaked. It showed what everyone whispered but never said out loud. Leadership protected top performers over people, over safety, over decency. Social media picked it up. Articles followed. Other women shared their stories, not just about him, about everywhere. Then we learned the part that changed everything. He hadn't humiliated me on impulse. He'd planned it months earlier. Consulted lawyers, asked about timing to protect assets, knew about a major business move coming that would increase company value, wanted witnesses, needed it to look mutual. The party wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. That realization hurt in a way I didn't expect, not anger, clarity. At the emergency board meeting, the evidence spoke without emotion. Receipts, emails, timelines, witnesses. He tried to defend himself, talked about revenue, about jokes taken out of context, about ambition. The vote wasn't close. Terminated for cause. No severance. When he threatened to sue my father, said one thing calm and precise. He told the room who I was. Not to boast, to make a point. I never used my family to get ahead. I never had to. 3 months later, I started over somewhere new. Better culture, bigger responsibility. People who knew my story and hired me anyway. I kept my name. The company changed policies. HR leadership was replaced. Quiet accountability followed loud arrogance. He updated his profile, open to opportunities. Silence. Sometimes I think about that night. The lights, the pen, the way the room felt like it was closing in. I don't feel rage anymore. Just distance. Some bridges burn themselves. And that's okay. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. If it reminded you of something you've seen or lived, say it. Argue about it. Share your truth. Because silence only ever protects the wrong people.